Hello and welcome to Clawful Evil Probable Claws, a show where we discuss Wildbow's most vindictive work. I'm your very villainous hostess, Vice Versailles.
And I'm your conniving hostess, Kipos. In this debriefing, we're covering Chapter 7 of Arc 5, The Quick.
Oh, goodness gracious.
Yeah, oh my gosh.
I'm gonna run out of oh goodness gracious or oh my goshes to give. But the thing that is getting my attention now is that this is like it's a serve, you know, like the rest of it feels like we're moving into next arc. And it's just going to be all of these pieces that 5.7 sets going into motion.
Yeah, I definitely think so. And this chapter's pretty brutal as far as things go. Like, we don't get much brutality, but the brutality that we do get is intense.
Well, let's see. Everyone is so we have, of course, Andre being set on fire.
Yes. Andre being burned alive.
Carson vigorously stabs a man from behind.
Yep, a whole bunch of times.
An older man slaps a young upstart for speaking where Davy might hear.
Yeah.
And poor Carson can't find a USB cable, and that's rough. I've been there.
That is rough.
It's incredible how Wildbow can create sympathy with even the most hostile and dangerous of people.
Yeah, when you got to find that one very specific cable that's just fucking somewhere in the pile. Ugh, hellish.
And it was, I think it was that line that prompts Mia to go, "We're disorganized, like things are like falling apart." And the idea that that is the thing that makes her go, "Oh my goodness, we're a mess." We don't even have our cables organized.
It's so Mia though to be like, every cable is in the exact correct. Yeah, I don't know. I love Mia.
She needs to get one of those. Yeah, you know, this is probably a great chapter for you because it establishes there's that part about she's 5'10", she's yay big and with these qualities.
Yeah.
I bet you enjoyed that, Kip.
Look, I enjoy every time Mia is on screen. Yeah.
But between Carson ripping his stitches and Mia nursing her wounds, the sensation that Davy is not just like projecting confidence, but actually is like somewhat impenetrable, or like he's already won, is like quite severe.
Yeah, it is. Like even from, directly from the start of the chapter where, Carson says like there are too many drones in the sky to count them. Like he's just got overwhelming coverage, and we just see that as it continues with drones everywhere and like people everywhere, and it is it's scary.
I hope this is the world where Davy really wants people to be intimidated by the size of his drone collection, so he's got a couple of shitty get them from an electronics store. Teach your kid to fly kind of little ones that
amazing.
Came out in like late 2010s.
Yeah.
It's just so that he has the numbers, for intimidation's sake.
One thing that I was thinking about as kind of reading this chapter is drones, while they are an excellent resource, we have already seen their limitations relatively early on, and that was the fact that they do have to charge, and the people that in our first arc when we saw them being used, they had several power banks and stuff, but the power hasn't properly been on for a little while now, so they are a limited resource, which is I try and keep remembering that when it feels like Davy is unbeatable, because
I'm really glad you brought that up, because it's such a choice on Wildbow's part to have these be that moment where the jammer goes off and the drones stop moving instead of fall out of the sky in a rain of poorly programmed plastic. These are high enough quality that they sit there. For one, that's a very neat literary trick in terms of deciding to pick the version of a useful tool where it delays your big bad thing instead of solves it. I really appreciate that. It's a use of establishing momentum. So like this isn't a solution. This is a tool for the problem. And I like even that Ben and Ryder use it they take advantage of this jammer and use it as a signal. I thought that was really creative.
That was really good, yeah.
There's besides that angle of like, I think Wildbow is putting quite a good degree of effort into making these drones engaging and not just and then they fell out of the sky and everything was solved, and then they were above us and they shot us and we died.
Yeah.
He's really getting the juice from this orange, as it were, going through all the opportunities and exploring the ways to do it. But the thing at the very beginning where the drones are there's so many of them that Carson can't think of anything quippy to say, so that he can protect his wife's feelings. Moses gives us the like bluntest form of it,
which I really liked.
It's just like within that complexity is still this sensation of fuck. That's like even if they do start to run out of power, even if the jammers are enough, just from having them hover there, maybe they'll run them out. Like this is the description of people putting fires up and the stars being blotted out, and because of that darkness, there just being a infinite black blanket of drones. Is horrifying. Like Davy pressing in on the world.
He's really like you talked about just before, like he is projecting that air of confidence, and like it works. Like it's intimidating. It intimidates, our characters, and it's intimidating to the readers as well. Like it doesn't feel
even like Carson is afraid.
Yeah, exactly. Or
at least he can't be funny about it.
Yeah, well, that's his version of being afraid. Did you want to get into the chapter summary?
Sure. In 5.7, with Davy's drones blocking out the stars, the Claw crew close in on a plan. With only 2 jammers and plenty of injuries against his fortress, it's not going to be easy. Another power outage, pedigree unknown, has left the city as dark as Mia's mood. The victims in the basement are starting to go sour without a doctor or life support. Carson can't find the right USB cable, and studying Valentina's map, they realize that the Hearsts are just too jacked to get into the vents to find Ripley. After organizing collateral with Ben and Ryder, they separately start to skulk through the forest toward the mansion. Mia leaves a big baby in an overheating car, Carson sticks a pig, and they overhear the Cavalcanti rank and file start to rankle at fulfilling Davy's orders. The man himself sends them to investigate the investigators, so the Hearsts sneak into the dragon's lair to try and drag out what's wrongfully theirs.
As usual, you have a gift with chapter summaries.
I like talking. Words are fun.
Yeah, I mean, what a chapter. It was really fun. So our BS predictions from last week. Mine was that they've left Andre outside in the car as a dark mirror of what happened with Camellia 10 years ago. And I mean, I wasn't correct at that point in time, but I was kind of correct.
You could say that you didn't know how right you were.
Yeah. I mean, it's a pretty dark mirror with compared to what happened with Camellia. Like, yeah, I'm taking this one off. This is mine.
I think that's sort of a jackpot prize where like you hit the target and then it kept going.
Hell yeah.
The thing is that they're really committed about this being a message to send. When we know that Davy is basically immune to those kinds of appeals to emotion.
Yeah, and like not only is he immune to those appeals to emotion, this is actually kind of in my chronological notes a little. Is that like he doesn't specifically care about Addie like at all, really, because he didn't do shit when she first got kidnapped. And I don't really see him giving a fuck about her dad either. Like he's useful, but he's not indispensably useful. And like
in fact, he's kind of already outlived his usefulness because
Davy has like the system on side now. Like that's
he's already built the infrastructure that he is now using that Tony let him get away with effectively.
Exactly. Yeah.
We'll get into more of that later. As for my BS prediction, I had thought that when Addie realizes that Davy doesn't really love her, she and Val will team up to slash his face instead, and that's poetic justice.
And it could still happen.
It could still happen, and notably, we have I pulled the quote. It's a bit of a throwaway. There is gunfire on Valentina's position.
Yeah.
So
Horrible.
we can expect in Arc 6 some mention of, or possibly a Valentina perspective on that going poorly. And I'm pretty sure Addie's there, unless Addie and Tony are back at the house. Which is a possibility.
Yeah, I wonder actually, because I think they did say in last week's chapter to bring them along. So I guess they're somewhere.
If it's going to happen anywhere, it's going to happen in Valentina's chapter as these as Davy's forces close on her position.
Yeah, that'd be good drama.
One thing that I wanted to get into, we have this little subsection of expectations, reveals, and questions. And for an expectation, I was really confused for a moment about the secondary power outage. Because it's right in the establishing shot. It goes against what happened at the very end of last chapter with the lights coming back on and Mia getting the message from Ripley. And we know that Davy has control of the guy that is in charge of the power network, but the Civil Warriors are also out of his control in a big way.
Yeah, and I think at the end of last chapter, the lights came on and then they went back out again. So
I see.
I think the idea is supposed to be that they are trying to re-exert control over the network and facing resistance.
That's on me then. I'm glad to get that clarified. So the power came back on for a little while, but not enough for batteries to fully recharge, hope to fully reclaim. That's very neat. I like that a lot. That's
my understanding, is that it kind of flickered on for a minute or so in last chapter. And it's very possible that it has been doing that as in between the two chapters. I wouldn't be surprised to learn that power has been fluctuating. Because it feels like they are trying to reestablish that control and hitting the resistance of the Civil Warriors.
And they're getting Davy where it counts in a way, because with the power wobbling, the Doctor dead, presumed dead thanks to Natalie's crowbar. Davy's trophies are holding on by a thread.
I think the trophies are linked up to the generators, but the implication I got from this chapter is that they damaged the life support before going into the vents. And I fucking hope that's true. Because, I mean, once again, and I think we've talked about this, once again, Wildbow has written a fate worse than death. So, they deserve that mercy. Those poor things.
And there was a post from Red Tom about how Natalie has gotten Natalie outsmarting Davy and being the vector where everyone's where Ripley gets free and the Doctor is killed, is really marvelous. And finally someone getting through to him, finally someone doing a hit that counts. And this is that hit, that vulnerability. That's that finding a blind spot and preying on a weakness. That's now starting to expand, and the crack on the facade starting to expand. He's losing the thing that he uses to sort of central to his own psychology, but also central to his values and central to how he projects power and says behold, this fate worse than death, it will happen to you if you don't work for me. She's disrupted the foundations of that. So if Davy starts to fuck up, we can thank Natalie.
Yay! Thank you, Natalie.
Thanks, Natalie. I really held out hope for you. I'm very happy for her.
I was not holding out much hope for Natalie, and she has surprised me.
Well, that's what two hosts are for: taking diametrically opposed positions and then fighting over it for several hours.
Hell yeah!
I'm sorry, everyone, for not representing Ben better. I don't like him enough.
Well, I think you have a closer to correct opinion. Yeah, look, I don't like Ben. Okay, I don't need to rehash that.
I'm very honored to have the closer to correct opinion. we've talked about the drones.
Yes.
So let's get into the beat by beat.
Well, you did have this one other thing here about the fact that like everyone is now paying attention to the Hearsts around like
Right,
the
yes, the
bombing
Fed
and
reveal.
everything. Yeah. Which
so now they do need Ben. It's a PR disaster.
It is a PR fucking complete disaster. Yeah. I am curious about how that's going to go, and I mean, I could see like the Feds becoming suddenly a lot more interested in everything that's happened in this town. Compared to everything else, because Jesus Christ.
I think the you know in terms of 15 seconds of fame and like the capricious whims of the media, as it connects to the like wider systems of like what people do with their time, like private business, public business. This seems like Davy's counter narrative of all the parts of my ass you can see, that's Mia. That's the things that she's done. And hopefully, if for in his mind, I think the maneuver is I will scapegoat our core crew, and chuck a lot of true things and also my baggage onto them. And then that will be my washing machine, and I'll be on the other side of it with a squeaky clean reputation. That's Davy's move. So
it's not a bad move.
The hope would be that Ben can do the opposite throw, and like if he were so kind, maybe toss on some of Mia's details, and give her a smokescreen to go live her own life.
On the other hand, though, he hates her more than he's hated anyone in his life. So I don't.
Yeah. I would sooner expect a narrative that puts forward the facts somewhat like we've seen them, with a bit of Ben's lensing in terms of like very little benefit of the doubt on Mia's side of the equation. But how much does Mia deserve the benefit of the doubt? As Ben says himself, they can argue about that forever.
Yes, I think you could really. Yeah, right. Chronological notes. Let's go. So there's a moment pretty early in the chapter where, Mia stopped cracking her knuckles and rubbed at her right shoulder, working the fingers of the right hand open and closed. And it's like, I do really enjoy this. Like this, build-up of like slow damage and like injuries, and like how it works into the fact that, our claw crew, I just started using that now. Thanks for using that at the start of this episode.
It alliterates. It's got some symmetry in that way the words are spelled. I think it works.
It's cute. I like it. So yeah, the fact that like our claw crew are like suffering these injuries and these losses, and they're not healing. They can't just feel better. Like they can't just like lose Highland and Bolden and be like, haha, but now we have the kids and it's all good, when like the kids are not, nearly as competent and all that. And yeah, I also like, I enjoy the fact that like Mia's strength, like none of Mia's strengths really come without drawbacks. Like she's not a superhero. She's just a girl that can push herself way, way too far.
I like it as symbolic of Mia's approach to a lot of things.
Yes,
and
exactly.
Also her mentality, just this general sense of maximizing and then like having consequences that she has to live with from those extremes. Things like the car being maximally hidden, and that being what caused people to catch on to it being hidden in the first place. That degree of paranoia going over the top and then making its own problems.
And also just like the way that she will push herself without sleep or food, etc., and then have her brain stop working properly, where she can't, speak, or she can barely speak, and like that. Like it's just very Mia, and I like it. I like it a lot as a character trait. It's a really good character trait for like a protagonist to have. Really, it makes it very fun. So then we talk about, from there, other roads and choke points were under constant monitoring. It was like the trail cameras, but fluid and much more oppressive. And I'm like, I love that early in the book, we like talked about how Mia's worst nightmare is just like another Mia up against her. But like here we have someone that is just like Mia plus in terms of like, it's very specifically in terms of some things. It's not in terms of everything. but it is very, very fun. Like, he has her trail camera set up, but better.
We talked about
Yeah.
the difference between Ben and Mia's access to footage and the way they investigate. Mia working like a state, and Ben working like more like the media does, very like correctly. But one being very pointed in your face, like causing you to behave differently, and the other being quite background and like catching you off guard. And in taking those two elements, Davy's doing both. This is oppressive,
Yes.
like a camera in your face, and everywhere, total, like security is. And like Mia plus, like Davy really does just take the like most like the sharpest tools from the other characters' sheds, and he just got all of them.
Yeah, but he is not the same. Like, he doesn't have Mia's like hacking expertise, and he doesn't have her like obsessiveness. Yeah,
he has people for that.
Yeah, he does have people for that. And they're not all as competent as Mia is, which is good, because otherwise he would win, I guess. Like, yeah. He does have his he has his drawbacks. He has his weak points. Not very many, but he has a couple.
For example, the collection of armless, legless trophies that were effectively taken off of life support.
That's right. Say it with me, everyone. Thank fucking Christ. I think.
Thank fucking Christ.
Yeah. Ever since we first saw those poor bastards in the basement. Yeah. I mean, I've been wanting them to die since then, which sounds mean, but it's a mercy, I think.
Yeah. Kippos, come now. Where is Valentina gonna get a hug from now?
Jesus Christ, Mia. Hopefully.
Yeah.
Someone.
So Carson, on one occasion.
Maybe. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like, yeah. There's nothing good in that basement. That basement just needs to be completely destroyed. I am so glad that they are not going to live. Sure, it probably would have been nicer if they could have died faster, but it's better than dying as slowly as they have been, which has over the course of years. So, yeah.
Welcome out of purgatory.
Yay.
Huzzah!
Also, I like that, because we, like, throughout this entire story, like, fire has been such, like, an ongoing background element. Like, paragraph 1, arc 1, we're talking about like the effects of the fire on the air quality and stuff like that. Like, it is like right from the start, and we've had like all of these offhand little notes about how like a bunch of fires will spring up if like people are like intentionally set fire to like national parks and stuff. And I really like the way that these like fire watch towers and these cabins and stuff like lining up with that background element that's been there since the start. And it's just like, yeah, it's like a really clever way to get Davy to leave the house. Yeah, and I like that it's tying into this background element that has been there the whole time. The
verisimilitude of Davy's takeover is like on full display in this chapter, from the like police that are working for him, because we know he has the police chief in his corner, from the power systems going back on and off because he's got the network guy in his corner, the drones that we've seen him use now out in full force, and like, so even as we learn a bit more, things are slotting very neatly into place.
Yeah, exactly. And I just really like it. Yeah. So then we oh, right, actually, Andre was in the back of one car with Addie. So yeah, Addie is there with them.
There she is, our little monster. I hope she gets therapy.
So much. Much worse for wear after Mia and Carson had questioned him at Tony's office. And it's like, quote unquote question. Like, he's just been tortured. Like, they did not, I would be shocked if they asked him more than like 2 or 3 questions, you know? Yeah, it's, not good.
Here we go with torture just not being the thing. It just doesn't do it.
Yeah, it doesn't help. I guess like Carson said, I think it was last chapter, where they talked about the fact that they just need to, like, them going to the office is less about like finding answers and is more about just like getting some time away. And I guess they took that time away and they beat a man half to death.
Yeah, you know, like it's pretty classic couples bonding activity.
I guess it helped them work off some stress.
New date idea for you and yours.
Yeah, exactly. Go beat a man half to death. Jesus Christ. Legally, the podcast doesn't sanction that date idea.
We should probably have more of those disclaimers.
I think it's generally fine, but I think when you say you should go do a thing, I think then I do have to drop a disclaimer right after that. That legally we don't actually sanction that behavior.
In the words of Ben, don't hurt anyone.
Yeah. And Jermaine smiles at him, and I love this mismatch of expectations. It's like Ben is still so delightfully naive, like because he helped push Valentina to move more wholesomely. Like he thinks he can with these guys, and just like with the most lame, like don't hurt anyone, like.
I think you're reading a lot of tone into that.
I guess I might be, yeah.
In my mind, Ben is going like, hey, I know everyone in this room is a career criminal, but I just want to throw it out there that violence is bad. And he's almost brave for that, but
I don't know. I think it is naive still. I think that there is a way that you can there is a way that you can communicate that without coming across as just like you're just going to be ignored. Like nobody is going to listen to "Don't hurt anyone." Mm. Like you can say like try not to hurt too many people because it like implicates us worse or something.
He could take a attempt to influence them or take a more specific angle than the general attitude.
Yeah, it's as much as I fucking hate the term, but it is like it's virtue signaling, like in the truest sense of like virtue signaling. Like I obviously the term sucks, but he's just saying like don't hurt anyone, and there's no chance people are going to actually listen to him saying that. Like he can formulate arguments about why it would not be good for them to do it. I don't know. It's not a bad thing to say like don't hurt anyone, obviously, because like they shouldn't hurt anyone. That's bad. Yes.
But he is barking up a wrong tree.
Yeah, and like the specific way that he's barking is just completely useless.
Comparisons
Ben,
between
favorite.
Ben and a very small dog aside, there is this like consistent beat as he's trying to first assist with this operation and then bargain with Mia of Ben being pretty truly out of his depth.
So fucking out of his depth.
And he never did take that training to become a paramilitary officer and parapolice, the marshals. Mm-hmm. He never did, and he's recently killed killed people for the first time. And there's the idea that he would be suddenly swimming well in this environment, I think, is it's beyond the ken.
Folly,
beyond the Ben, as it were. But
that's pretty bad.
He by like sticking to his guns and really trying to hold on to a couple of the key details, I think like a lot of Mia's rage at him throughout this is just how he won't let anything go. Like there is the element of him that's like somewhat dumb or comes across somewhat dumb or is like at least like in a practical mindset, in her villainous mindset, unreasonable or an obstacle. But he is doing something quite important here of going, and when Ripley is saved, are you going to give her back? Because that's why I'm here.
Yeah. Like he like hashing this out is good, but like he can't stop poking the bear. So like the quote I have here is like him saying like, and backups of backups. And it's like Mia whirled on Ben, that darkness and muted rage clear in her eyes. Carson raised a hand and he realized he'd be more likely to lose the use of his hand than stop her. She was going to kill one of them now. Carson leaned back up against the car. And it's like, it's so good. Like the way that Ben is just like completely I don't know. He's almost treating her like he can do whatever he wants and there will be no consequences. And like, do I think it's moral and good that there are consequences for things like this? Like, no, you shouldn't beat someone to death because they're being slightly annoying. But Mia would. So
the fact that Carson just goes up she was going to kill one of them now. Like it's gonna happen. It's a certainty.
Like he raises his hand almost to like, like hold her back for a moment, and then thinks she's just gonna break my hand. Like she's gonna break my arm rather than not kill these people. And so he's like, well, one of them's dead, I guess. And it's like, Ben, you fucking moron. Like there's a time and a place. Like I like obviously, yeah, it's like trying to make sure that there is a deal worked out where Natalie lives is good. That is a good thing. But he can't get himself to a place where he has concessions and then stop. And it's only because Valentina is there. Yeah, like it's only because Valentina is there and, pipes up that Mia doesn't rip Ben's head into. So like shout out to Valentina for saving a life tonight. And I love that even when Carson thinks Mia won't listen to her husband, she'll like listen to her daughter. And I love that. I think that's really cute. And it's just very Mia. Yeah.
The quote that you've pulled here about Carson's perspective on Valentina. I am wondering how much of it is a blind spot for Mia.
I think it's 100% a blind spot for me.
So Carson are famously insightful or like deeply socially acute man gives this analysis of Ben and Ryder didn't know her enough to trust her. She was a wild card who'd hurt Addie. But for Carson, he knew that if she left with them, she wouldn't come back. They'd given her validation, recognized her accomplishment. He wasn't sure if that had unlocked something in her, a milestone she needed to cross that once crossed gave her permission to go, or if she had realized she didn't want them in the time they'd been separate, focused on other things. Mia does not know any sign of that, I don't think.
Yeah, I really, really don't think she does. I think Mia, as always, just views her as her daughter. But it is kind of like it's heartbreaking. Like, because even like Carson views her as his daughter as well, but like in a very Carson way. And they love her, but yeah, at least Carson now is fairly certain that if she goes, she'll be gone forever. And it's like, oof, yeesh. That hurts a bit. And maybe it'd be best for Valentina to go. Like maybe it would be the best solution for her, but I don't know.
The found family narrative is sweet.
Yeah, it is sweet.
If she decides it's not what she needs, then I just hope that more than anything, I hope that Mia can respect that because like much like Davy, she's a dragon too.
She is.
She no matter how well she's treating what's hers, there is a degree to which like the emphasis on her daughter is her daughter, like mine.
I mean, yeah, I agree. I think I'm guessing we'll see more of that as the book kind of comes to a close. And I am looking forward to it. Kind of.
I am very excited about terrible things.
Yay! It's gonna hurt. So then we get to Carson's plan. I have a plan, and if it comes to that, you won't like it. But it's not because it risks you or Ripley or gives us an advantage over you. I swear on the life of my children, I'm not playing games. Ben frowned. If I told you, you'd kick up a fuss and you'd be distracted, Carson said. But if I don't tell you, you'll make peace with it later. And it's like, the way he's phrasing this is so fucked considering what the plan ends up being. But at the same time, I actually agree with him. I think particularly Ben, but also Ryder, would kick up a fuss about this. But then I think particularly Ryder, but also Ben, would be okay with it after the fact. Yeah.
They have talked about killing criminals. They've talked about killing Mia.
Yeah, they've planned to kill Mia. They've talked about killing criminals. They have just like shot some people. It's not good. This is a horrible plan. But I mean, it works. I think. I guess
it works after a fashion.
Yeah, I don't know. It's fucked up. It's good, but it's fucked up.
There's this note nearby of mentioning how it's earlier in the Ben and Mia debate conversation that they have. Ben realizes that Mia has already investigated and learned something, and then it hits Mia on a bad nerve because the reason she knows that is because of the plan to bomb the school
Yes.
that she had researched for. And we get this insight into like what the thinking for that plan was, and as it certainly applies to this one as well, where the genuine reason they settle on the practicality of a bomb is it's more predictable which way people will run.
Yeah, which
so
yeah.
the decision to like bomb a school, which we didn't put much emphasis on at the time. I'm not sure if we talked about it in the original episode at all, but it was
I don't remember if we did.
it was this moment of right, okay, Mia had a plan to spook people.
Yeah.
But even in this, bringing it back to the fore, Mia and Carson thinking about it now, like not only was it a plan to spook people, but they didn't really consider any of the and also we'll be bombing a school, and now and when the feds talk about us later about us being career criminals, they will absolutely be able to get us for bombing a school.
Yeah. Unfortunately, the whole defense of, well, we only did it like when there wouldn't be people around to be injured by it doesn't actually work.
We were just trying to
legally
re-kidnap our kidnapped child. It's perfectly defensible, but the seeing that there isn't any of that like moral consequence thinking, or even until after the fact, as the police officer brings it up, like there's not really that. They don't like Carson certainly doesn't think about it that way. I want to sort of pin that space because it's one of the many times that Mia looks at Ben with absolute rage, and it applies to what we see with this plan and this kicking up the van. But I think it's a big thing that is happening with Mia here that we'll get into when we talk about themes.
Yes. Okay. There we are. So then, Mia is finally thinking about children. So, she says, not just ours, blah, blah, the girl the man brought to the riot, others, how many children hear the sirens now? And I love that Mia is finally thinking about what Ben talked to her about, about the fact that her actions have wider consequences for people. And, for her, for children, her actions have made a lot of people very scared. And thank God she's considering that as a consequence. Good.
I don't think that we've really considered the possibility that Mia might be receptible to that.
Yeah, I guess I didn't really, because we did talk about when these two argued, they both had good points. They were both saying things that the other one needed to hear, and they got into a bit of a slap fight about who is a child and who is an adult.
And like a true adult, Mia has considered it and is not just hearing but listening, and now thinking about it and talking it over with someone that she loves, and this is a sign of growth, and that's kind of wild.
I'm very glad that she has internalized this idea that the things that she is doing make people more scared, make the world worse. I like it. Great.
And all of this is in context of, let's duct tape a guy to a wheel and a seat, and we'll set the car he's in on fire, and then he will drive when unable to brake to get himself fire extinguished, so he will drive well enough to accomplish that.
It's not even they're setting the car on fire. They strapped fuel canisters to this. There's no way
it's not
my man
really
lived through
an explosion. It's an immolation.
Yes.
The practicalities of it of now they'll think that the jammer's in there. It is a strange and biting and very cinematic plan.
Yes. It's a good distraction.
It definitely works as a great distraction.
Yeah. Pretty evil.
It's a very evil thing to do.
Relatively so.
Carson and Mia are still hitting this drum of what maybe Tony and Addie are still hostage bait, or it's possible to make a call with that.
Which, again, I think that's crazy.
And Carson just stone cold lies to Andre about his survival chances.
Yes. Yeah, he really does. they really play up the chance that he's going to live. Because there's no way. Yeah, maybe if like the car had been set on fire and eventually it would get to the fuel tanks and then things would blow up. Like, yeah, maybe, but like the fact that Mia rigged some fucking explosives in the fuel tanks, like, no.
Yeah.
Yep, sorry, he's just dead, I think, or about to be.
From my perspective, what I think is like going to happen here is sooner that they dismiss this big visual distraction out of hand.
Yeah.
Because they work over like, right, and then they'll dig into it, and hopefully they'll think that the blocker isn't there and it isn't, so they'll waste time, and they'll try and get Andre out, so hopefully that will waste time. And I think, you know, if they were dealing with like more empathetic people, these would be the manipulations that work. But I really think that going into Arc 6, we're sooner to see that this plan doesn't work than it does. Or the fashion that it, like, you know, immediately Andre driving with one eye, on fire, or if not already on fire, then about to be, crashing into the police cars and totaling the car on the road. It's not like it managed to hit the mansion where it being on fire would be like needing attention, or hit into the tree line where if it set fire to the forest, that would need a lot of attention.
Yeah, and look, I mean, there is also like the perspective where this would be a pretty huge hit to morale, because like they've seen Nicholas get shot, and now they've seen Andre essentially burned alive, and like the fact that, as Tony said, like Davey like projects an air of confidence, which is fine for all of the higher ups, but not many people that are higher up are good at communicating with the people on the ground level, and one of those that is Andre. So like. Yeah, it would be a pretty big hit to the morale to have, you know, a leader that you feel like you could communicate with and trust strapped into a fucking van and exploded.
Really hit them with the "we have set fire to your middle management" maneuver.
Jesus Christ.
But there is this discussion with the Cavalcanti family, members of like the rank and file. On fire, a young woman said, in a group of mostly men, she was a rarity. We know who it was, apparently Andre. All of us stay together. Looks like we'll be split up or given different jobs. Let me know. This is going to shit. Watch each other's backs.
Yeah.
Something, I'm not saying it doesn't make sense. I'm talking about something more foundational. I know your mom, I know your dad. I'm not saying we're disloyal or that we should be. I'm saying I want to know where you are, that you're safe, that I can look them in the eye. And like this is the damage that is done to morale. They're closing ranks.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
And
they're not closing ranks around Davey. They're closing ranks around each other in separate little pockets, which is excellent. That's part of our hope, I guess, for Natalie and Ripley to get out of this alive.
That other kid. If this... Yeah, oh, goodness, we had his name written down. Brian? With a Y?
Could have been, yeah.
But... if there is any effect to this really monstrous maneuver to set a man on fire and have him drive toward his family's house, it's probably that morale damage. So how far that pays off, whether the Cavalcantis at large cut contact with Davey in some way or aren't as responsive as he'd like, that will be the payoff then.
Yes, exactly. And we have seen like a couple of different instances of morale damage. From this to, Ben and Ryder returning the hostages. Like people are turning against Davey a little bit. We'll just see how well it goes.
How long until those drones drop out of the air?
Yes.
And we have Carlos mention in all of this.
Yay, Carlos mention. Missed that guy. I don't know. Davey just says, like, Carlos, get our people sweeping the woods. And I'm like, yay, Carlos. Been a while since we've
Carlos,
seen him.
How are you doing about those photos or the people that are in the basement?
Yeah,
how
still
are you
thinking about the basement, buddy? Or are you just locked that thought away?
Yeah. I hope we see more from Carlos.
Me too. So then our final and like our ending line is into the dark of the house where the sirens were a little quieter. They could only hope it was safer than the woods were now. Ah, what a good ending line. That's such a great ending to the chapter. And I feel like I said it maybe last week and maybe the week before, but it feels like a really good end to the arc as well. Yeah.
Hopefully, in my mind, Arc 6 will pick up from Ben's perspective on all this.
Yeah. Yeah, that could be interesting.
And we could also get a cutaway to Valentina. The person that I am waiting for, as we have been this whole arc, is Mia.
Yes,
because we get glimpses into we've seen her as like often a focus throughout this whole arc. And wanting to know where her mind is at as she now gets closer and closer to her foil, this dark antagonist, this patriarch to our matriarchy, where with all these things in her mind about the ways that she's fallen short or been too aggressive and too hostile. I'm very, very, very interested in seeing what she's thinking. So I hope we get her perspective sometime in Arc 6.
I mean, I would love an Arc 6 Mia arc, but I could also see Mia being a great final antagonist to the story. I don't know. I could definitely see, wrapping up with Davy and then Mia deciding, well, I'm taking my daughter, I'm killing Natalie, I'm killing Ben, I'm killing Ryder. I'm just done with all of this shit. Which I think would be interesting and scary.
That would be interesting. It neatly fits to the theme I wanted to talk about.
Yes. So that was an intentional segue. Mm-hmm.
Thank you. You go on, claim it such. You can take all the credit for it.
Oh, I will.
This emphasis from Valentina earlier of like this dark urge to wound Addie got this reciprocal of solving her, of understanding, and we see that darkness return in Mia's expressions throughout this chapter. This like I'm gonna kill him. I don't like what he's saying, and we have the return of Carlos, who in turn rejected like the opportunity to see the photos because of what that would do to him and his worldview and what he's done recontextualize. Mia is beginning to recontextualize things. She's in a very dark place. She is feeling that hostility, that urge. But she's also in the situation where she's having to grapple with the consequences of her actions and the integrity of her existence as it clashes with the integrity of her understanding of herself. And this is happening with a lot of the cast. Like we don't really see it with Ryder, and we've seen it with Ben being sick to his stomach and befuddled and having to eventually it expresses as killing a man. But for Valentina, it expresses as essentially, if not forgiving Addie, then understanding her. So I as far as predictions go, Mia going completely wild and doubling down twofold to try and keep Ripley. I don't think that's in the cards. What I think is going to happen, I don't want it to happen. That's one thing. But I feel like meaning wise, the Claw has been about the places that you have to fend people off from, that you will go wildly clawing at people for. And this chapter, this arc has been very much about that ability to resist alternatives being bidden down to the quick of suddenly not having enough of a claw to fend people off with and having to maybe listen to them. So we have the return at the very beginning of this chapter of the clenching fist, of the sheer amount of force and will that Mia puts into the world as she is trying to build it. And we haven't seen her relax. We don't know if she's capable of relaxing.
Yeah.
But if she ever did, I think it's fair to say that the main thing that she has to let go is that Natalie is Ripley's mother first, and if she has any claim to like that relationship with Ripley, she can't like have it in a world where she and Natalie don't have a good relationship. Because the world where she lets go is possibly the world where Natalie lets go. And like the questions that are up in the air of like how much in all of this, like how can Mia even serve enough prison time if like, the penal system is remotely functional, which I don't believe it ever was, to cover the amount of murder and blood and guts that have been spilled in her quest to do what Natalie has been doing, which is a quest to save Ripley. And if Natalie recognizes that effort and values that effort, and Mia recognizes Natalie's effort and values her effort, there is a world where the two of them are okay to be in each other's lives so they can be in Ripley's life. And I think that's where this is going. Or at least I certainly hope so. Because the alternative is that the message is something along the lines of, if you do double down all the way, nothing good will come of it. Mia self-destructing in the completely in the search for custody of Ripley is the only alternative that I can see.
Yeah, and look, we have seen because I could see that being an ending with Mia, self-destructing, and because we've even seen from Carson the way that he will stand against Mia in some ways, saying take the password off your computer and give it to them. This is something we have to do. He does have his own sense of priorities and stuff like that are very different from Mia's. So I mean, I could see her self-destructing alone, without Carson or anyone, and that would be heartbreaking. But yeah, look, I could see it working in that sense of I could see it working in the sense of everyone else coming to terms with this stuff, and Mia not, and that would be a heartbreaking ending. But I could see it being an ending, and look, I hope that that's I don't know. It would be a happier ending if they could get along, and so I would like a happier ending, but I wouldn't be Well, it's difficult because obviously talking about emotions, I would be upset with a sad ending where Mia dies because that would make me sad, but it would not make it an unsatisfying. I'm sure whatever is going to be the ending is going to be satisfying. But I would be a little sad,
The thing that I am hiding behind all of this analysis is that I just want everyone to be happy, and for all the mistakes to be forgiven.
I hope so.
And I recognize that is fundamentally impossible, but it would be nice if it happened as much as possible. I will simply use literary analysis to smokescreen the simplicity of that fact. Much like Mia uses her incredible investment into criminal enterprise to hide the fact that she just wants to be a good mom.
Yeah. Okay. Bold and specific predictions?
I really think that Ripley will see Mia and Carson, ragged with injuries and figuratively dark, in or from their encounter with Davy, and that will change her mind to go with Natalie instead.
Oof. Yep, I could see it happening. Normally our BS predictions are pretty lighthearted, but yeah.
I was trying to be as accurate as possible this whole time.
oh right, yeah, my bad.
That's why I keep predicting that Sax is canon, because I think so.
Yeah, fair enough. No, I like this prediction. I could see it happening, and I think it would break all of our hearts. And still maybe be the right thing to happen, but I don't know. It gets so messy, and it's so difficult. I'm sad. Okay, so I actually have two BS predictions. I didn't write the second one down because I only thought of it just earlier, so I'm going to say that one first before I forget it. So they're going to pull Andre out of the car, and they're going to take him to the basement, and then they're going to realize, oh shit, our doctor has had his skull broken, and all of the life support systems are broken as well. And they realize they could have saved him had they not kidnapped Natalie and Ripley. So that's my little BS prediction there. And my second one is Ben and Ryder ran into trouble taking the cabin, which we know they did because they pinged their thingy. But we also know that they succeeded because we did hear from Davy later on that he was reporting like high winds. So they ran into some trouble, but luckily our favorite cabin boys, Sax, showed up to save the day and get the signal through.
Yes. That is it's weird that you've written this quote from the next chapter, which you've received from Wildbow's documents, by skulking into the back door and being able to figure out access the true thing that's going to happen for sure.
I did a Mia and I hacked into Wildbow's computer and I just copy pasted from the next chapter. So I guess sorry Wildbow, my bad.
Bold and specific spoilers. We didn't touch on it earlier. The siren system of signaling, of using the emergency systems to get messages. Is it that Davy was saying the high winds siren, and then is signaling one thing, and that another siren will signal another?
No, so I think what it is, so the sirens are spread out throughout the city. So I think those are like fire sirens. So they set off the fire sirens, and then they go to this cabin, which has like all of the instruments and stuff that detect like wind speed and stuff like that. And then they falsify a signal from there saying there will be high winds. So you've got the fire sirens plus the high winds, which mean be fucking careful.
Okay.
That's my understanding of how those two systems work together to convince Davy that shit could go down.
Right, okay. Because in my mind, up until now, I had been thinking that, like a maximalist with nothing to hide, Davy was using his secret code of, I've hijacked all of the public sirens, and I'm just doing the wrong ones so that I can message myself.
No. I think the sirens are just like city infrastructure, which is especially, I think, why Ben said don't kill anyone or don't hurt anyone, because they're just like emergency sirens. They're not like Cavalcanti owned, unlike the two cabins, which are Cavalcanti owned and staffed. That's my understanding.
My poor reading comprehension aside, excellent chapter all around. To get into our discussion question, last week we asked,
what's a time you learned something about someone that completely reframed your understanding of them?
So for this one, we're going to run it for another week, because we did get one really good answer.
But I feel like I feel like people are going to have answers to this, but just have not yet written them in. So please write them in. We like getting answers.
I having listened to podcasts like this before, have often been in the place of, gosh, I wish I had a little bit more time. I could have answered that question. So here, if you are in what was once my position, here is your little bit more time. We would love to hear such anecdotes as this one, because it's a really good story.
Yeah, so this is a comment from Pick in the Eye, which is a lovely name. So they say, I've never met my mother. Shortly after I was born, she and my dad got separated. Not long after the fact, my mother and her new boyfriend were possessed by the spirit of the Hearst family, and I kid you not, they kidnapped them. It took my father several months to locate me, and since then she and I have been in no contact in spite of her attempts to reach out throughout the years. For a long, long time, talking about her was all but forbidden. I thought she was dead, or she just didn't want me. It took my psychologist telling my dad to explain what happened when I was 10. This was the first point where my view of her changed radically. All my teenage years, I was filled with resentment that she was the reason, in my eyes, that everything in my life had felt so wrong since I had the use of my memory. This feeling only growed when I discovered from her mum, with whom they have a great relationship. Sorry, I keep on changing the pronouns from first person to third person.
That she had formed has a great relationship.
Yes, sorry. That she had formed a new family abroad. There was a less radical but more important to me piece of knowledge that really changed her image in my eyes. Not too long ago, her mother shared two details with me. First, that the boyfriend she was with at the time of the kidnapping was physically abusive, both of her as well as me. Secondly, that she was diagnosed with borderline personality disorder. Does this mean I no longer resent her? No. But it's helped me understand that it wasn't a black and white situation, and after more than 2 decades, I was able to finally put this to rest in my mind. I still want nothing to do with her, for the record, but I can get closer to understanding her. So, yeah, that's a pretty intense discussion question answer. Thanks for sending that one in.
Yeah, it's It's crazy how Ripley is old enough to write discussion question answers these days.
Crazy.
I hope it wasn't too hard on your one hand. If you've got any cool robot mods, that's I hope those are helping you.
Yeah, they did specifically say that like when like 1.6 dropped and they read it, they kind of thought they were tripping because like it felt very real to their situation. So yeah, yeesh.
There's, I remember early on in our discussions of what had happened with Mia, emphasizing the point of this is a very niche and rare situation that just would not happen in real life, and we couldn't possibly expect the standards. Like this is a fictional scenario, so as we evaluated it, sort of we have to get around those bumps of like, wow, it's just impossible. So it's hard to take seriously. And I was wrong.
I guess how bad.
Pick, thank you very much for sharing your story, and you have bewildered and bamboozled the both of us.
yeah. Although it sounds like that the next few chapters are not necessarily going to go too great. If that's how this story plays out. Oof. Okay. All right. That's right. So, sorry, I'm scattered at the moment. We will answer this question next week. So then at least if nobody else answers, we'll have something to say.
I'm looking forward to my story. I think it's a sweet one.
Nice. Mine's sad.
So just to reiterate, what's a time you learned something about someone that completely reframed your understanding of them? Does not have to be particularly heavy. It can just be like a oh moment.
Yeah. Alrighty. That's it for our show this week.
Check out Wildbow's Patreon at patreon.com/wildbow. This is his runaway on fire van. We're just duct taped to the steering wheel.
Jesus. For what it's worth, I didn't write that one.
I actually specifically requested to do that one. Kip had already written one, and I went, can we use this one instead?
This one's better. I like yours more. It's so dark. Okay, please give us a rating and a review on the podcatcher of your choice.
If you want to chat to us about the show or follow along with live reads, check out our channel on the Doof Media Discord. Find the invite link at doofmedia.com/discord.
All right, and bye.
Bye for now.